This is SaaS Therapy.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of SaaS Therapy, the show where we help you save your most important business relationships, your customers. And today, we're going to talk not just about how we help our customer relationships, but also how we help our employee relationships. And we are blessed to be joined by Courtney Sembler, who is the Senior Director of the HubSpot Academy. Courtney, welcome to SaaS Therapy. So glad to have you here.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited for our conversation today. Already had such great conversations with you in the past, so I'm excited to keep it going.
Oh, love it.
DK, Courtney is that person that when she walks in the room, you feel energy, right? It's just like, okay, let's go. It's go time. Someone walked in the room and just brought it, right? And she doesn't have to say a word. You just feel it. So Courtney, I'm interested as we get started and we get to know you. And we're going to introduce this topic of passion versus hustle, and how in today's society, maybe we vilified passion a little bit, right? Yeah. And I want to get into it. But before we get there, Courtney, what made you you? How did you create this passion? How did you create this energy? Where did it come from? What are some of the experiences that you've gone through that have brought you to this point as we get into this topic? I just want people to know a little bit about you first before we get started.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. What can I tell you about me that you might not already know? I feel like in the very short time we've gotten to know each other, we've gotten into a lot of deep topics, which has been awesome. A few things that make me me. I can't ever have this conversation without mentioning my mom. So my mom was the first female CFO of her kind in the early 80s when she was about 30 years old. She was the CFO of a clothing company called Esprit de Corp. And when I was growing up, that image that a woman could take up all of this space, be in this very male-dominated space of the financial world, and be a CFO and be a mom. She was a single mom, and just not apologize for it. Like, there was never a conversation I had at the dinner table of like, oh, I'm sorry, honey, I couldn't be there for you. It was always just like, I got work to do, and you understand that. She was working remotely, was probably like the first person in the 90s to ever like have a personal fax machine that was like corporate level in our house. And that's made me who I am. Like, the energy she brought to our family life, to her professional life, it gave me this perspective of like, I'm going to be whoever I'm going to be. I'm going to take up space. And I'm never going to use those, what I would say, like dirty words we use for women of like hustle, passion. Oh, she's too ambitious. Like, none of that. There was none of that tolerance in my house when I was growing up. And when I started progressing through my studies and when I entered into the corporate world, I didn't actually appreciate how much that was a benefit when I looked around to other people and I was like, why are you diminishing yourself? Like, why are you apologizing for your opinion or how you present? And they're like, well, I mean, isn't that what I'm supposed to do? And I was like, no. And that has really become, that becomes a core of who I am. And I think the second part, particularly in the realm of education, is I was actually a pretty average student. I really struggled in a traditional classroom. I didn't like that sort of memorize, regurgitate. It didn't help me learn. And I had this professor when I was in university who taught in a very flipped classroom model. We did a lot of discussion. We talked a lot. And all of a sudden I was getting A's. And I was like, what happened? What changed in me? And finally he was like, have you ever been taught like this? And I was like, no. And he's like, this is how you learn best. You need to talk, you need to present. And all of a sudden it was like all of these things were going off in my head that never had been there. And I think that's actually where a lot of the energy came from, because when I then started being in front of the classroom and teaching, this space opened up where I was like, you might not learn in the traditional way, and that's okay. Neither do I. We're going to do this together. And if I just had to pull out two things, those are probably the biggest things that make me me and bring that energy into everything I do.
Oh, that's so good, Courtney. I relate to a lot of that in the sense that my My spouse, I would say, gets very frustrated in the sense that I like to process. I'm an out loud processor, right? So it means that most of the things that I say, oftentimes, especially if I'm in a private setting, they don't always come out well articulated or formulated. They can meander and be confusing. But I love to work out how to convey information, because
Yeah.
then it's so much fun to then be able to work out the best way to tell somebody something. And now when you know how to do that your best, it's amazing. So cool. Courtney, tell us a little bit more about your career. I know now you're you work at HubSpot leading their academy, but how did you move from just loving to share ideas to making a career out of it?
Yeah. So I've been at HubSpot now 10 years. This month is my 10-year HubSpot anniversary. And before I joined HubSpot, I was actually in the environmental nonprofit space. I was working for a small organization based here in San Francisco called Tompkins Conservation, and I did donor relations. I helped, make sure our donors knew where their money was going. I managed a CRM. Big surprise. When I ended up going to HubSpot, that became a value add. But my career has sort of taken, I would say, like 3 big pivots of, I loved the environmental space. It's personally a big passion of mine, protecting these wild places and making sure they're here for generations to come. I would say more now than ever. But I was in my 20s and I was making no money working in a nonprofit. Like, it's really hard to get your career started there. And so I took a big chance. I found HubSpot completely organically, actually on Glassdoor, which if you're looking for jobs, that's still, I would say, one of the best tools out there. And I found this like bright orange and white company, and it was like, we are great and we do this. And I was like, okay, like that seems interesting. And I took a job with HubSpot. It was called the entry-level HubSpotter. I was a support engineer. I answered support calls, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And I think that's something that a lot of people don't talk about enough, of like, I didn't leave college having something to do. I didn't have a passion. I knew kind of things that I was good at. And this job really spoke to me of like, come and learn about HubSpot and talk to our customers about it. It's like, cool. I have a degree in communication. I have a degree in conflict resolution. That fits. Like, let's do it. And the second I entered into HubSpot, I became the yes girl. I said yes to every opportunity. I don't care if it was getting someone coffee or sending out a deck from a meeting. I said yes, because I wanted to open as many doors as possible. And what that led me to was I got to do a lot of front of room facilitation. I was training support reps after I had done it for about 7 months. And I loved that. And people really enjoyed my training style. I was like, okay. And then I was like, well, how can I do this for more people? And I found Academy. Academy had been around for about 2-3 years when I joined the team. So it was very early stages, really small team. And from there, I just found passion after passion for what we were doing. I loved the product. I loved helping small to medium-sized businesses grow better. I loved teaching. I loved helping other people teach. So when I became a manager of some of our instructional designers, I loved that. And all of a sudden, it was like overnight, I kind of looked down at my resume and I was like, oh, this is a job. Like, this is a career path. This isn't just something I've cooked up in my brain. Other people do this. I'm good at it, I think. I hope. And all of a sudden, I was on the stage at Inbound telling other people about how to grow academies. And I had this just smile on my face every day about it. And I'm really fortunate that HubSpot continued to take a chance on HubSpot Academy, on me as a leader. Didn't have a formal background in a lot of what I was talking about, but every chance I got, I talked to practitioners. I was doing it myself. And, I'm really fortunate I get to lead this team of 65 people now around the globe. And I feel very fortunate that I got to make a career out of something that I really love and am passionate about.
Okay, Courtney, let's break this down, because I just had this discussion with my daughter, and she was talking about she's 19. She's trying to decide what type of job she wants to go into, and she says, "Dad, I want to find something that I'm passionate about and has purpose." So, Courtney, our topic today is to walk through, what is passion? How do I have passion? let's put the smart person in the room. So I'm going to remove myself from this vehicle. You're now in the vehicle with my daughter, Olivia. Olivia turns to you and says, Courtney, that's so cool, your story. I love it. I love that you found this, but how do I find my passion, my purpose? What would be your advice?
My first piece of advice is you can be passionate about anything. It doesn't have to be the fancy thing that you put on LinkedIn. You can be passionate about anything. And I think it is a good reminder when you're getting your career started that you're going to find micro passion and macro passion. And the first thing that you find is probably not going to be the macro passion. It wasn't for me. When I first started at HubSpot, I became passionate about our customers. I really loved talking to them one-on-one, and I was passionate about it. I was excited when the phone rang and I got to say, thanks for calling HubSpot support. Like, I was excited about it because I saw what it did for them. I saw that I was answering a question that was going to help them grow their business. And for me, it became a lot about what are you going to be building depth in to make that bigger passion come to life. And there was a couple of those pivotal moments. And the advice that I'd give is, what are a couple of day-to-day things that you really enjoy? Is it reading, journaling, walking and letting your mind wander? What is it? Okay. Now, in a professional business context, if you want to go into tech, what would that look like? You really enjoy talking to your friends and giving them advice? All right. Well, guess what? CSMs give advice. CSMs are coaches. Sales reps give advice. Like, all of those things can be translated. And so I'd first start with the macro passion the micro passion, so you can build to the macro passion. I would say something that is tough for, I have a 18-year-old niece. She's going into college, and we talk a lot about, well, I want to make a lot of money and I want to be, successful and I want to do all these things. It was like 10 years ago. I started at HubSpot. I did not make a lot of money, not to HubSpot's fault. Like, I didn't do a lot for them at the time. And I, maybe talked to 5 or 10 customers a day. Like, my impact was really small, and I wasn't taking the world by storm. It has to be gradual. And I think it's those young people who feel like they can go from where they are today to, all of the things they've ever dreamed of overnight. I'm like, anybody who tells you that happens, like, they're lying to you. Like, influencers, it takes time. Anyone who is successful, passionate, a practitioner, it takes time. And we're fortunate today that we have more technology than ever before to speed up that process, but you still also have to go through the maturity for yourself. You have to feel it. You got to do something you don't like. And then you have to build that list of things that you're good at, that you enjoy. And eventually that kind of leads into the passion piece. And it's not going to be a word that you pick up in a book. I think that's what I struggled with initially, is I read all these books about these women who are in tech and they did all these things. And I was like, okay, I'm going to read a story and it's going to be what I want to do. I have a ton of books behind me and more on the wall here. Not one of them is what I do. Not one of them. But all of the little pieces that I found in it built up to what I then felt like I was passionate about. And the last advice, I'm driving in that car with her, that I would give her is, don't allow your passions outside of a formal business professional context to go away when you're thinking about your professional passion. I am extremely passionate about the environment, about saving and protecting land, and about what that means in today's world. That is not really relevant when I talk about HubSpot Academy and how we build, but it's still a passion of mine, and I intertwine that. I talk about it every time I get on stage. I talk about it with my team. I was recently speaking to an IC, and she's now involved in some environmental work outside of her day-to-day job. Your professional passion and your non-professional passion are connected. I like to say that it's work-life integration, not work-life balance. How you bring that stuff together is really important.
Courtney, the first thing that came to my mind, because I'm going to pull a Todd bot moment.
The
This is
first thing
where
that came to Todd's mind was that you should be my guardian of my daughter. That's say what you wanted to say, Todd. Before you give us a recap
Send her over.
of everything that Courtney said.
I know all of Casey's kids, and it's a miracle any of them are still
miracle.
hanging on. It's all because of his wife. She's the best. Otherwise, they'd all be lost for sure. But it's interesting that I like to summarize a lot of the things that I hear, because it helps me, as I said, I process.
Helps you process.
So first part of this, I love your first point of advice, because I started my career in professional services and live training as well. So what's interesting for me is one of the first principles I was ever taught by a professional trainer was not to steal the wow. That's something that's always stuck with me forever, right? Don't steal the wow. And so what your first bit of advice was go discover, go do, go experience. Me telling you what is the best choice for you doesn't have the same resonance as you discovering that for yourself. So that's the first thing that I really loved about what you shared there. And then you went on with this idea of the secondary point of integrating your passions from outside of work with the way that you approach work. So, you mentioned the environment, but I am curious, what do you do if the work that you do on a daily basis doesn't feel like it fully aligns with the things that you're truly passionate about? Would you say there's a way to still integrate that, or would you recommend finding something else?
I mean, I think it's a complex question. It's probably a little bit different for everyone. Sometimes we have to do a job because it's a job. I'll put that out there.
Yeah, right.
You sometimes do things that you aren't passionate about. My dad always used to say, he was a long-term accountant. He ran a big financial firm in San Francisco. And he used to say, he's like, you either do what you love or you do something that pays for the things that you love.
Oh, that's money.
And I loved it. He was an accountant. He worked, 6 or 7 days a week from January to April. And on April 15th, he walked away from that office and did not look back for 3 weeks. He was like, I'm done. Tax season is over. See you never. And, he retired in, his early 60s and has enjoyed being, a grandfather. And he's a pilot. He loves to fly. And so that wasn't about accounting, but accounting had paid for what he wanted to do. And so that can be true for you. And don't diminish that. It's actually a really powerful thing. I think there is this perception nowadays that if you don't do something that you're passionate about, you need to find your true calling, and you have,
right.
Maybe not. You could be an amazing lawyer, accountant, doctor, whatever it is, and you can feel like it's a 9 to 5. You can check in and you can check out, and that's totally okay. I do think you can integrate them further. And I think that comes from reflection of what is it outside of work that you really enjoy, and how do you bring that in? A good friend of mine, she works as a sort of front office admin at a care facility. And, she's passionate about that, but it's a 9 to 5. It pays her bills. But she's one of the funniest people that I know. And so she wanted to bring her humor into her day-to-day. So she now ends all their staff meetings with a joke. When they have staff meetings, she shares a joke, and it happens every day. It's Nicole's 5-minute of humor. And it can be as simple as that. When I first started taking on a managerial position, I love poetry. I love meditation. And so once a month I would meditate with the team. We'd get on Zoom or in person, pre-COVID, and we'd meditate for 5-10 minutes. And I loved it. It brought in something I cared about to the team. And then all of a sudden the team was asking me more questions about things I enjoy outside of work. And I think that's the unlock for a lot of people, which is what you're passionate about. You just really want the people that you work with to know about it and ask you about it, so you can talk about it in your 9 to 5. And so, Todd, what is something that you're passionate about that's outside of the realm of what you do day to day?
Ooh, what a good question. Well, so good news is I am very passionate about what I do, but I'm actually at the stage of life right now personally where most of my life revolves around delivering cool experiences to my kids. So my oldest is 12, my youngest is 6. So I guess my favorite thing right now is trying to give them experiences. I want to take them to cool places. I want to expose them to as much stuff as I can, so they can discover what they're passionate about. Right. So I think that's where most of my time is. As a result, my one thing that I do is I love the outdoors. So I try to go on a couple backpacking trips every year, try to find a really cool place and go backpacking. So.
Awesome. And that, I would say, integrates really well with what you do day to day. You try to bring learning experiences to people. You are trying to talk with them about their passions and what that does and how that translates into business outcomes for them. That's the same thing, right? You want to create experience for your kids that translates to a memorable experience. And so whether it's the process or the actual thing, I think we sometimes look for differences, not for similarities and stuff. And so that's a really good unlock for a lot of people of like, okay, I'm trying to create, I'm going to go backpacking with my kids this weekend. All right, probably not on the surface, maybe related to what I do, but it definitely can be. And it just allowing your uncomfortable space to meld those parts of your brain. And that's why I like the word integration for that and not balance. Casey's laughing at me. He's like he's seen my like
the hands are
flying all my hand
gestures. Casey's just like, I love the energy. I'll tell you. So we make fun of Casey a lot.
I picked up on that.
Yeah. But what I will say, one of the things that Casey, I remember him saying really early when I first started working with him, and he said, the reason I love coming to work here, Brainstorm, is because I'm a better person when I go home as a result, or I'm the same person at work as I am at home. And one of the things that I think is challenging is the fact that you can feel like you have to put on this air and change to adapt to a culture of a workplace. But what you ideally, like, even if it's not integration, you want augmentation. So like your point, I will say, I'm practicing asking questions and advisement to a customer or something. And in that question, I discovered that was a really good way to phrase it. That impacts the way I might be asking my kids questions as I'm giving them advice or helping them discover new things. So absolutely, there's crossover there. And so I think there's what you ideally want is you want your work life to augment the development of the person you ultimately want to be, right?
Yeah. And we spend a majority of our time at work, whether we like it or not, unless you're fortunate enough to retire at, 35, the majority of your adult life will be spent doing some sort of work, whatever that may be. And so to me, it's a real disservice to ourselves when we don't figure out how to be that person and to bring those things together. Yes, you may not be 1000% as casual in a professional context. Maybe the two of you are. I don't know. I think that could be legitimate. But there might.
Casey's legitimately laughing at things because that hits a little close to home. I think Casey and I are a little bit too much involved in each other's personal lives as a result. So we're very casual at work.
Which is beneficial in some ways, and I'm sure challenging in others. But it's a disservice to yourself of like, you are one person. We are not in a severance type of situation. We are one individual. And when I, shut off this Zoom screen and leave, my office, I don't become a different person.
Yeah.
I don't want anyone that I lead or that I have the opportunity to have on my team feel they have to do that. And so we spend a lot of time talking as a unit, as a team of, how are you bringing yourself into the workspace and how can we create an environment that is psychologically safe enough to do so?
Yeah, it's awesome. Courtney, I love podcasts. So I'm a habit person. Like I just have my habits and I just follow my habits. And so I wake up early, I go to the gym, I have this set podcast, I do something spiritual, then I listen to something business. One of my favorite podcast episodes ever was Reid Hoffman, and he was interviewing the CEO of Shopify. And he said that when we first started out, as we were growing like crazy, we decided as an executive team that all senior leadership had to reapply for their job every year.
Ooh.
And here was the premise, and there was a one interview question. It was, Shopify grew at 400% this last year. Did you as a leader in your role grow at 400% or more? And that was the question. Did you outgrow the company, because if you're not outgrowing the business, then you're going to stall out, and maybe we need to find a different position for you and put someone in that has that expertise that can make this happen. So Courtney, I give that as a background to ask you this question. Do you believe that who you are has been one of the reasons why HubSpot has one of the best academies out there in the market? Is it your personal DNA that makes the academy what the academy is? Because I can refer you to about 5,000 academies that are god awful. And that's not to say great individuals aren't there, but I do believe there's something in the concept of, if you want to make whatever you touch great, it starts with you. We put too much blame on the product or who I'm working with, and I don't think we take enough extreme ownership. Courtney, what is your reaction to that? And just so our audience knows, we don't prep our guests for any of these questions. We just have a conversation. So, Courtney, I apologize for catching you off guard on that, but what are your thoughts on that?
I have a lot of thoughts on that. I would say I'm a deeply humble person, and so it feels difficult to answer. But the reaction I have to it is, yes, I take deep accountability for the success of HubSpot Academy. And because of that, as I show up in every conversation, every Slack message, every side conversation, email, slide deck comment, I am thinking about the bigger picture for Academy. I'm not thinking about myself. I'm not thinking about the bottom line of what it was going to mean for me tomorrow. I'm thinking about the bottom line for Academy. I want HubSpot Academy to be around for the next 2 decades. I've been at HubSpot a decade. I've spent 9 of those years with Academy. And I one day want to be able to point my kid, whatever the internet looks like in 2 decades. They might just pop it on to their glasses. Who knows? But I want them to be able to go and see something that I was a part of growing and scaling and building. And I want them to be proud of it. And I give a lot of that credit to Mark Killens, the founder of HubSpot Academy. When he hired me, he asked me one of the weirdest interview questions in the world. And it was, what was my favorite type of bagel? And I was like, what job am I interviewing for? I was very thrown off. And I answered him. I can still remember my answer. I like, I like a cinnamon raisin bagel with thyme butter. Very specific. But I remember kind of counter asking him. I was like, why do you ask me that? And he goes, well, it's important to me that you're able to express an opinion and that you're able to answer an unprompted, very random question. And that's the experience I just felt again of like, you're asking me that. And I'm sort of like, wait, how? There is no right answer to it, right? There's no right type of bagel.
Yeah.
And I think that when I think about the DNA of Academy, my DNA is stitched into it. And my brand, my professional career is Academy. And that makes me so proud.
Yeah.
And that I can only feel that way if I also feel like I'm putting in the energy to it. The team, they are gracious sometimes and reminding me that I need to take breaks and have self-care and walk away. And I think that goes back to the passion versus the hustle. I never feel like I'm hustling. I never feel like it's too much because I'm passionate about it. I went on a sabbatical a couple years ago. HubSpot has a sabbatical program, and I went skiing. And I was in Utah. I went up to Snowbird and Alta, and it was wonderful. And I sent my team chairlift thoughts. I would open my phone and I would send them voice notes of, I'm on the chairlift and I'm seeing, and I'm like, what if for Academy we did this for localization instead of that? Or like, what if we tried this type of content? And after about 15 days, they're like, Courtney, aren't you supposed to be on sabbatical? And I was like, right. But my sabbatical gives me this gift to think about Academy in a different way because I'm not in the day-to-day. And when I came back and I talked to people about that, they're like, I don't understand. And I was like, I care that much about Academy because of the value we have for HubSpot, for the value we have for our customers. And so my answer is like, yes, I think the success of any academy, of any team, comes down to the leader and the leaders they put around them. My leadership team is the best. I wake up every day afraid that someone is going to poach them. And if you don't feel that as a leader, you don't have the right leaders around you. If you don't feel like you got to make sure your team is valuable enough to keep those team members, they will leave. And you don't want them to. I have team members that would be so successful as leaders of academy. They want to be on HubSpot Academy because of what we do. And to that point of like reapplying for your job, I think about that once a month. I do a reflection. Started doing it a couple years ago of like, if I left today, who would take over for HubSpot Academy? How long do I think that they would be in that position? Like, would it be temporary? Would they bring in someone else? And is that person better fit to run Academy than me? And it's a hard question to ask yourself. And there are some times where I'm like, yeah, I've reached the line. Someone's going to be better at it than me. And I ask that question to my team. If I didn't lead Academy, who should? If I were to lead Academy differently, what should I do? The self-feedback is the most important thing to make sure your energy, your passion comes out to your team and to the success of your organization.
Yeah, Courtney, it's great advice. And, you know, I think that's one of the things that a lot of people struggle to do, right? So I want to put you in a scenario where you're having to confront a challenge. Okay. So let's say, you grew up in California, so you have a great love of the San Francisco 49ers, right? Say they're your favorite football team. You just love them to death. But now you have to move to Wisconsin. And as part of that, you now have to cheer for the Packers.
Can I leave the podcast right now? Like, I can't. I can't.
I won't make you answer that hypothetical, right? But I think in a work context, there's scenarios where you can get super passionate about something. You're going so deep, you love it, you want to keep pushing, and you even just ask yourself, like, how do you know when it's time to make that change? But I want to take that to a logical step further, and that is, okay, so if it comes to a point where you're like, I know that I've hit my limit with something and I need to put my energy into something else to grow it, how do you then shift your attention and your energy? And I'm not going to make you have to justify how you become a Packers fan, but how do you put your energy into something else if you had to shift from where you currently are?
Yeah, it's a really good question on how you pivot. And I don't think leaders actually spend enough time thinking about it. Well, I could never root for the Green Bay Packers ever. Or the Dallas Cowboys. At least you didn't say the Dallas Cowboys. I thought you were going there for a second.
I was afraid we would lose our friendship forever if I went
forever.
For the Cowboys, so,
that, yeah. I mean, non-negotiable. But I think one of the things, and it's happened so many times for HubSpot Academy, we want to do something. We're really excited about it. We're going down the path of creating it, whether it's a certification, a new program, et cetera. And the business takes a turn. And the business is going in a different direction, and Academy sort of needs to follow with that. And that either means we have to drop what we're currently doing or keep what we're doing and pick up other things. And I think the picking up of the other things is always a little bit more difficult. Some things that I found really helpful as I've made those pivots is you have to go back to the why. And the why isn't always because you want to do it. And I know that's hard to hear. Sometimes you got to go to your team and like, look, we got to do this because it's good for the business. We got to do this because Yamini has asked us to. Your CEO has asked you to do something and you're going to do it. And you got to go to the why of like, what is it that's going to resonate with you and with your team? For me, what always resonates is this is going to enable us to be able to do something else. And a couple years ago, well, now quite a few years ago, it's probably 5 or 6 years ago, Academy had this big opportunity where we were really like nailing it for our product education. Like it was just firing on all cylinders. It was finally like we got the software certs and the course, and it was just like so exciting. And the business was struggling on acquisition. And so they picked up Academy, they moved us over to marketing, and we all of a sudden had acquisition goals. We had to do acquisition content. We had to do content lead generation. And that was hard. It wasn't something I was passionate about. It wasn't what I believed Academy's value was.
Yeah.
But when we sat down with the team and as a leader, I was like, well, okay, let me put myself 5 years from now. We've done this. We've done it well, because if we're going to do it, we're going to do it well. Like, that is always the thing I say to Academy. If we're going to do it, we're going to do it really well. So as a leader, you don't half-ass anything. If you're going to go in, you commit. So if we're going to do it, what is it going to open up for us? And for me, what I saw was, okay, it's going to open up marketing opportunities. We're going to get better distribution. The marketing team is now going to be our friend. Product marketing and I are going to be aligned. I was like, that's a lot of reasons why this would be a beneficial pivot. And I think that's what you have to do. Like, you have to sit down and say, 5 years from now, 3 years from now, what does this open up for us? If I had to become a Packers fan, what does it open up for me? It opens up an opportunity to have a community. My gosh, the Packer community of fans is incredible. I'd love to be a part of that. Get to go to a game at a stadium that is so well renowned, that has such a beautiful history. That'd be awesome. I love cheese. I'm on board with the cheesehead vibe. That sounds great. And you know what? The players on the team are really passionate about winning. And we kind of like step that through. I could never convince myself to wear the green and yellow, but that's okay. But as leaders, I think as you make those pivots and you have to do those things that don't immediately feel resonant to your team, to your passions, or to your structure, start to ask yourself those bigger questions and just walk yourself back into why it's going to be valuable. I like to think about the inverted pyramid, like all of this stuff, and it's going to take you down to that point that's going to make it possible.
Yeah. And it's so hard to be a leader that will do that self-reflection, ask if the opposite could be true, or what could actually open up if this worked well. And I think our default is, well, our boss told us to. Now, sometimes that's an answer you just got to give. But I think a level of leadership, and again, going back to my point, Courtney, why your organization does so well is leaders like you that actually say, okay, I still have to be authentic to me, and I got to walk myself through this and how we're going to accomplish this. And I love the framework of what you just gave us. Courtney, my last question, and then Todd will have one more. I remember driving with my dad, and we would be driving down the street, and he would kind of give the hang loose sign to people on the street as they were walking. Yeah, just do that, right? And I'd be like, Dad, who's that? And he's like, I don't know. And he would just always do it. And as a kid, of course, you're embarrassed. You're like, Dad, you're such a weirdo. Why are you doing that? And I remember him telling me is he said, Casey, people will always remember how you make them feel. And I was just like, whoa, I didn't understand it as a kid. But as an adult, I kind of, man, that hit home. And so as we think through passion, and the advice I gave to my daughter was that be passionate about people. And as you're passionate about people, you'll see doors open up, and you'll be walked into the areas of where you want to be. And it might be an area that you don't want to be, but there'll always be people. There'll always be someone to uplift, and there'll be someone that'll uplift you. So never miss out on the opportunity to be passionate about people. Courtney, you've given us so many things to think about and reflect on about how to be passionate. How are you passionate on your down days? How are you passionate on the times? Because again, you get to a point where you're like, maybe you don't receive that passion back. People let you down. How do you keep this culture within yourself? What are some tips you could give to everyone?
I love that. And the passion about people, it's so easy to be passionate about people who give you the passion back, to your point. But when they don't, you're going to be passionate about people that you don't like, that you don't often see return the energy you're looking for. And on those down days, and to be clear, they can be down months, they can be down years. We don't always have the upwards momentum. I read a book years ago called Wintering, and it was about the seasons that we go through of, sometimes we have these just beautiful seasons of blossoming and summer. And sometimes we have those winter months and those winter years, and we have to store that energy up. And for me, to hold on to that passion, you can't white knuckle through it. You cannot show up in the team meeting on those down months, on those down days, and put the smile on and talk through gritted teeth, because it's not authentic. People are going to see right through it. They're going to be like, Courtney's no longer our leader because she is not showing us who she is. You have to be honest. Now, that doesn't mean going and trauma dumping on your team. That doesn't mean venting at them, but you have to be honest about where you're at. And one of the most helpful things that I have done is when I'm in those moments, which we often are, we can and we hold it, I use a lot of phrases with my team of like, hey, I'm like a yellow today. I'm like an orange. Put a color to it. We use a lot of emojis, in our Slack channel. And like, I'll put the kind of like, cat that's sort of like looking a little grumpy, or, you add the humor to it. Because we can't be passionate every day. We can't be excited every day. It's not real. We have other things that we experience outside of our day-to-day that impact us. And for me, outside of like talking with the team, that's where journaling comes in for me. I have to get it out. I'm like Todd, I just have to, like, the words just need to find their way out. And so I journal. I send myself a lot of voice notes. I'm sorry, but if you stole my phone and you listen to the chaotic things that I send myself, I don't think you'd want me to have you on your podcast. Like, it's a lot.
It's therapy. It's okay.
It is.
Yeah, this is what this is all about.
And that therapeutic thing of like naming it. I think that to me is the one advice I'd give everyone, is you have to name what you're feeling. When someone lets you down, when you lead a team and you're passionate and you got all the things and you got the resources, and someone lets you down, you're angry, and that's okay. You're frustrated. That's okay too. You're not going to take it out on them, but you are going to have a conversation with them. You're going to have a conversation with yourself. You're going to give yourself some feedback. You're going to give them some feedback. But when you try to make it all okay, we can't be steady state always. Like, life is always that roller coaster. You're going to have the peak. You're going to have the valley. We hope our valleys aren't too deep, but sometimes they are. The last year of my life was really hard. Outside of work, inside of work, it was hard. AI is a hard thing. We haven't talked about that. Thank you for not asking me a question about AI. I appreciate the break from the constant. Todd's like, that's my last question. It's a lot. We're going through a lot. And when you don't name it for yourself, that's when people start to give you the feedback of like, well, I don't really think Courtney's being all that authentic. I don't think she's trustworthy. When you go to your team and you're like, it's all okay, we'll be fine. AI's not taking your job. Don't worry about it. You're being dismissive of the feelings that you have, the feelings that they have. And on that, the last thing that I will share, and, Todd, you'd mentioned this earlier, like getting outside. We work from home now, or offices. It's fake air inside. It's fake light. Get outside, breathe the air, touch the grass. For me, there's nothing more cathartic and releasing than just putting myself in a different environment, because you're going to look at things differently and your passion is going to come rushing back to you. I promise. Like, you take the 15-minute walk in nature. Trust me, at the end of the 15 minutes, you're a better person than at the beginning. And that can be in your neighborhood. That can be on a beach. That can be on a mountain. But for me, it's that you got to be honest. You got to hold that space for yourself. Be honest with your team, name it, and then just change the space that you are in. If you have kids, grab your kids and have them go and do something chaotic so you can laugh. Ask them to put on a show for you, whatever it may be. But like, you just have to get yourself out of that space.
Oh, so good. So Courtney, on the topic of AI, no, just kidding. I will say, clearly you love the environment. Obviously I love backpacking. I love getting outside. I'm gonna make a knock at Casey though. Can you believe this cat has lived in Utah his entire life? He's never gone skiing. It's ridiculous.
How do you work with him?
I don't know. It is insane.
Wasn't that in his job description? I think it was in his job description. Like,
I know. It's crazy.
That feels.
I don't understand it.
Does that mean your kids don't ski?
I don't think I don't know, actually. I've never asked. Your kids ski?
My kids actually, well, my oldest doesn't, but no, 50% do. 50%. Okay, 50%, I'm a bad parent, okay? All right, stop.
By the third generation, we'll get them to 75%. It'll be fine.
I'm losing connection. My internet's going out.
My house is going through a tunnel.
Courtney, we do have one last serious question for you, though. And this is the last question that we ask all of our guests, actually. So because this is SaaS Therapy, hopefully people listen to this and found it therapeutic. Maybe that gave them some things to think about and to consider. But every good therapy session always ends with a little bit of homework, something that you can do to make your life better. So we always ask you're the therapist, if you could give anybody one last homework assignment as a result of this conversation, what would you ask people to do?
I would ask people, whether it's a piece of paper or your computer or your iPad, get it out and write down 5 things that you love about yourself and 5 things that you think other people love about you. And just give yourself that space. You're going to start with yourself first. You gotta write down the 5 things that you love about yourself first, and then go to the other people. And then just ask one person, not your spouse, not like your best friend, not your mom, but like someone in your life that you trust, to give you that one thing that they love about you. And I'm using the word love very intentionally, and not something that you like, not a physical appearance thing, nothing. It's something you love about yourself. And it has to be 5. And it's, for some people, it's really hard. It's hard for me. But once you do that, I want you to just put that somewhere so you see it day to day, whether it's at the top of, your computer screen, just look at it for the next month. I think for me right now, there's not a lot of self-love going around in the world. There's a lot of just feeling and like hurt and pain. You're a good person. You do good work. I know you do, even though like I've never met you. I know you do good work. I know there are things that other people love about you. Talk to one person about it and give yourself, I like to call this, I make my team do it a lot, give yourself the self hug, arms out, wrap around, and like just give yourself that hug. There's a lot of science behind it. When you like tension and let the release go, it might look a little funny, but it's a good reminder for all of us. We got to start with taking care of ourselves, our own heart, our own self, so we can take care of everybody else, whether that's a leader, a parent, a plant parent, a dog parent, whatever it may be. Just make sure to put your own oxygen mask on before helping others.
Oh, so good. Courtney, thank you so much for joining us today. People, you should know Courtney's on LinkedIn. I don't know that she posts crazy often, but a lot of people follow her. You know why? You obviously, you know why. You've been listening.
You now know why.
I love that Todd just snuck in some feedback. He's like, she doesn't post that often. Like maybe she should post
Courtney,
more.
You need to post on LinkedIn more, so that because you got good thoughts. We need to hear Courtney thoughts. But Courtney, what else should people know if they want to get in touch with you? Is LinkedIn the best way, or anything else we should tell them?
LinkedIn is the best way. Go take some academy courses, find me in San Francisco. I think that's my biggest takeaway. If you're in the Bay Area, like I want to have coffee with you. I want to have tea with you. I want to go on a walk with you. Like my LinkedIn is the best way to get in touch with me. But I love the human connection, and I love sharing my city with other people when they visit. So come find me.
Thanks, Courtney.
Awesome. Thanks, Courtney.
Thank you so much.
SaaS Therapy is brought to you by Brainstorm, the SaaS platform for SaaS adoption. Learn more at brainstorminc.com.